Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Don't enter the woods. I considered myself a pretty outdoorsy guy. I love nature, but nature can be as scary as it is breathtakingly beautiful. For the last 2 days, I have been doing extensive research on a creature I am starting to realize is very real. It goes by many names. It has a name in nearly all Old World cultures. The Japanese called it the kitsune. The Indians of Asia called it Rakshasa. The Native Americans called it Yadalushi, that which walks on 4 legs. In a startling epiphany yesterday, I realized that this creature is responsible for all the modern cryptid sightings. It is the vampire, the werewolf, the skinwalker, the rake, the fleshgate, a stalking, pale-fleshed humanoid shapeshifter that mimics its prey. It utilizes camouflage just like the Predator movies. It hungers for children. Worst off all, and perhaps most scary, is that they are completely capable of replacing people. Body snatching. They will dispose of the original and seek to take his place. However, they never fully integrate with human society. At some base level, they are just hungry creatures who eat cats and dogs even after assuming the life of a human. This creature is the Goat Man, the Jersey Devil, the satyr of old. Remember witches going out to the woods in the middle of the night to dance with the devil? This is that devil. It is a mimic that has hunted humanity since we walked on 4 legs. I'm sure my words will not be enough. You will want proof. Easier to obtain in the 21st century than you might have thought. There is so much to Google and look for. For example, humanoids like the rake, skinwalker, and fleshgate caught on film. Those 2 alone will bring up vids of what is likely the real creature. Naked, pale-fleshed humanoid that walks on 4 legs in a disgusting manner. There are videos of people finding them on their roofs in remote areas, and the people taping nearly shit themselves. This is what is behind the missing 411. I started this journey stumbling on a video about scary stories from 4chan. To my shock, many of the stories had similar underlying themes. Group goes camping. Weird shit begins to happen. The guys hear something mimicking the human voice perfectly. This same story is repeated throughout the internet. Everyone remembers this story when it came out of the sewer monster that was found. It looked very real but was quickly dismissed as a hoax. It's not. These things are real. The government is covering up, I guess, to stop widespread panic. This is what is behind the missing 411. They have the power to, I guess, use some kind of echolocation to mess with your hearing. All throughout the internet, sightings of this thing is accompanied with a disturbingly eerie silence. It can make sounds seem far or close by, throwing its voice. Remember Hansel and Gretel, a shape-shifting child-eating witch? From what I've heard, its skin is impenetrable to bullets. It had to be shot in the neck using bullets covered in white ash and/or wolfsbane. Wolfsbane is highly toxic, even to the touch. The reason it's called wolfsbane is because long ago it helped our ancestors defeat these werewolf shapeshifters. They are vampires too. Those huge glowing eyes have the power to put you in a trance if you look into them. The only way to get out of its piercing gaze, like a deer caught in the headlights. Your brain starts behaving like a prey animal because it realizes this creature is there to kill it. You have to take control of your nerves and show ultimate courage. I do not fear you. I know what you are and will kill you if come near. Don't go into the deep woods if you don't have to. Don't let your kids play in the forest of densely wooded areas. This thing goes unseen. There's videos of it chasing dogs and vanishing.
While OP has a lot of valid info, I disagree that merging all these phenomena into one creature is the right approach. Some of it probably is the same creature and some of it is not.
It just makes sense. It has the power and mastery of illusion. Illusion 100, taken from Wikipedia. Rakshasas were most often depicted as ugly, fierce-looking, and enormous creatures, with 2 fangs protruding from the top of the mouth and having sharp, claw-like fingernails. They are shown as being mean, growling like beasts, and as insatiable man-eaters that could smell the scent of human flesh. Some of the more ferocious ones were shown with flaming red eyes and hair, drinking blood with their palms or from a human skull, similar to representations of vampires in later Western mythology. Generally, they could fly, vanish, and had Maya, magical powers of illusion, which enabled them to change size at will and assume the form of any creature. The female equivalent of Rakshasa is Rakshasi. I'm just connecting the dots based on the information available.
Maya, Sanskrit, magic or illusion. A fundamental concept in Hindu philosophy, notably in the Advaita, non-dualist, school of Vedanta. Maya originally denoted the magic power with which a god can make human beings believe in what turns out to be an illusion. By extension, it later came to mean the powerful force that creates the cosmic illusion that the phenomenal world is real. For the non-dualists, Maya is thus that cosmic force that presents the infinite Brahman, the supreme being, as the finite phenomenal world. Maya is reflected on the individual level by human ignorance, ajnana, of the real nature of the self, which is mistaken for the empirical ego but which is in reality identical with Brahman.
You can't kill one unless you are prepared. They have Sasquatch strength. They hunt deers and large prey, then hang their bodies in trees in the deep woods. The movie The Ritual is about them.
Does a bullet from a Masin Nagant that has hurled souls to hell in the fires of Stalingrad qualify?
If the bullets are covered in wolfsbane and white ash, probably. According to Navajo legend, they were shamans who achieved the highest form of magic except used their powers for bad. They committed some terrible taboo ritual that consisted of eating the flesh of a family member. This correlates to the tales of the Wendigo, which largely is why I feel it is the same creature. Just how many humanoid cryptids do we need lurking around in the forest? If it can go invisible, if it can change its shape, there only needs to be one rationally. It's why we can corner this thing. It can just jump into a tree, camouflage itself, and run away.
Maybe some kind of jacketed hollow point rifle round filled with a mixture of white ash and wolfsbane. Any commandos that can guide my amateur thinking here?
Courage is the only way to defeat one. If you show up with your team of trained assassins, it will just watch and wait till one of you goes for a piss break. The scary realization of why we have not already dealt with them is because we can't. Thousands of miles of dense forest to find an invisible shapeshifter. Harder to find than a needle in a haystack. It can just take the form of a deer and hide. The Nords would sacrifice animals to this thing so that it wouldn't take their children, which it did anyways. Don't talk about them in the open. Definitely not about killing them. But should you come across one in the woods, should the rustling of leaves, birds, and bugs go quiet, steel yourself with ultimate courage and get back to your camp. They can be malicious and purposefully scare the shit out of you. They feed on your fear. You need infrared goggles. They are master hunters. That's why they choose to live in the wild, I guess. The freedom to hunt. They will throw their voice to make it seem as if they're behind you, then jump from the trees and break your ribcage with inhuman strength. There's a reason why we don't screw with them. We can't.
You can't.
Hunters go missing everywhere. This is what happens then. People who are friends with these missing hunters often describe them as the most rugged wilderness survivalists. You'll need more than bravado to take one down. You'll need a plan and a backup one.
Kitsune, fox, Rakshasa. I don't know, man, these seem more like Japanese oni, or jinn, or maybe fairies or goblins. Yenaldushi, skinwalkers, which contrary to commonly held belief on /x/ are basically just shape-shifting witches. It is the vampire. Risen dead, the werewolf, sorcerers with lycanthropic shape-shifting powers closer to the skinwalker, sure. The skinwalker. Not foxes, though. The rake, fake. The fleshgate, fake and Reddit. The goat man, that's literally just a goat man. The Jersey Devil. Have you seen pictures of that shit? That's not a shapeshifter, that's some kind of kangaroo bat monster. The satyr of old, also a goat man, but the other way around, a man-goat. Honestly, dude, study it a bit more. There are a lot of similar things in folklore, but you're linking shit that doesn't really work. Kitsune do have a lot of similarities to fairies or demons, but it's really just a matter of behavior. Ultimately, it's just the animist notion of foxes being magic. There's even a god whose messengers are foxes, and his shrine is a downright haven for them.
Any of you guys want to see a god? And more importantly, any of you want to be seen by a god? To feel its presence in your life and in your heart, always? To frolic and dance and play in its loving bosom as your demons, your fears, your obsessions, your depression, your hatred and your weakness melt away and become dust? I'm talking about a true, living, breathing, kind and benevolent deity that created your kind, gave you shelter for untold eons, nurtured you, made you into what you are now. Well, I've got good news for you. The forest nearest to where you live is the place where this beautiful divine entity rests. Its name is nature, and it can be your father, your mother, your teacher, your friend, your food source and your home all fit into a tight little package we call the woods. You really should pay it a visit. Just don't forget some food, water and rudimentary camping supplies, well as weapons of your choosing. Do not tempt it by visiting unprepared. The things that will follow you out there should see you as a capable creature and not as easy prey. Hiking in bountiful nature frees the mind from idle and obsessive thoughts, worries, sorrows, anxious and self-deprecating delusions. It attunes you to what you are supposed to be. It builds character. It grants you clarity, wisdom and skill. As you walk, you shall feel nature's divine powers mending your tattered soul. Hike along a scenic trail or carve your way through the brush, or prepare for a nap with the beautiful moon and stars gazing upon you from betwixt the branches. You will feel the love. You will know what your purpose is. Your ancestors came to the primeval forests of young earth in the shape of disgusting little fish frogs, barely able to crawl, barely able to breathe. Look at you now. A magnificent animal. First among great apes, master over all lesser beasts. Cunning, nimble, strong on your 2 feet, blessed with so many great tools and the wisdom to use them. Sure, your big brother the bear possesses frightful claws. But you possess bear spray. And probably a gun too. Sadly, you are also a forgetful and ungrateful creature as well. Ever since your kind left the woods for pastures, cities, space stations and whatnot, it became prideful. It forgot the bestial kinship which makes us brothers with wolves and bears and even the elusive capybara of South American swampland. But this can always be changed. Time flows differently in the woods. You may always return, and in time it will feel as if you never left. On the trail, especially in the twilight hours, you will feel the unseen watching you, following you with their eyes. The spirits come in all shapes and forms. A girlish giggle in the thick shrubbery, the stamping of great hooves behind your back, a bird's shadow cast from up above, so vast it covers the sun. Allow them to be curious of the strange new guest in their domain. Be respectful, be kind, take only what you need, and be not afraid. So that's all I wanted to say tonight. Now get packing. Nature calls.
Woods really are like another dimension. No matter how little, if there is a place where you can be surrounded by trees, you feel like in another time. I believe that humans have cut too many trees without replacing them. The cities are too big and the population is concentrated in too narrow a space. Modern cities are impressive but evil.
Agreed, man. I don't rightly know what's up with the trees, but they do have this mood or vibration or something around them that just changes how the brain works. Same with the cities. I totally feel what you said, and I made a little observation of my own. I don't rightly know how relevant it may be, but the way I sense stuff is that the modern era of the city, the more soulless and empty and horrific it seems. Which might sound kinda strange at first, because we all know what manner of death and bloody mess went on in medieval cities, for example, but still, those concrete boxes scare and disturb me way more. Archaeology shows that a normal way for humans to build cities is the creation of this really dense, really close-knit, almost hive-like structure, and old cities are just that. I lived in places 800 and even 1,000 year old, in renovated buildings of historical centers of said cities, and let me tell you, in those houses you won't be able to live a few days without knowing everything about your neighbors, because the walls are paper thin, the rooms are tiny, the streets are super narrow, barely enough for a narrow horse-drawn wagon to fit between the houses. Claustrophobic almost, but it feels natural, because that is the way humanity builds shit when not observed by hired architects and city planners. We still build like that when we're allowed to. Like those Brazilians turn their slums into claustrophobic, narrow, densely populated beehives, or look at Kowloon, the walled city in historical centers. But then came planners and architects and modernists and postmodernists and automobiles, and now cities are concrete blocks surrounded by huge rivers of traffic. Scares me way more than the narrowness of old cities. Modern cities are unnatural, though they are convenient. So hey, I'm not gonna say we should burn them down and replace them with trees, but I'm getting up there.
Yes, trees speak to us on a deeply spiritual level. Some would just say that they release chemicals that make us feel this way. But I have the feeling that there is more than just pheromones and brain reactions in our relation with trees. I thought it might be due to the fact that trees tend to be older than us. When you think about it, except rocks and rare animals, not many things and living creatures have a long life in the wild. Concerning the cities, I believe that they are an abomination. a degenerate state of the social lives of humans. Together, humans are strong, so they stick around each other like bats in caves. But they are so efficient that in the end they turn their living areas into gigantic termite mounds. Modern cities, on the other hand, the system, alive in the people's mind, is so efficient that it built itself around humans. Hence the cyclopean structure is suffocating humanity. I do not actually think that the problem is really the size of the constructions, but rather that it is created without the natural beauty of things. People are not living in cities, they are used by them. Just like red blood cells in a giant artificial organism.
It doesn't matter, I live in what I think is considered among the nice parts of my city, and while it is significantly better than the other districts, compared to non-city or even my hometown, I still find it bad. There's a really nice park I go to work out. The whole area is full of greenery and mini parks and other green areas, yet the general landscape is still city-ish, and I can't stop thinking about how much I dislike that. Every time I'm at the park working out, I imagine how the whole area would look without all the buildings, how I'd be seeing smooth edges of kilometers of fields, forests, and hills spreading far out and wide, blending into each other, instead of the jagged sharp lines of the city buildings, and just in that imaginative scene can I feel how much more at ease I'd feel if that were the case. It seems to me like there's something about sharp edges of buildings all around that makes one, or at least me, feel anxious and unnerved deep inside. If I see the city building-filled vista around me, I just can't stop feeling on edge, constant slight bodily tension, because in every direction I turn there are endless rows of rectangular buildings, no big smooth panoramic view. Meanwhile, if I go out into nature and look at such a panoramic view, I instantly feel so at ease and relaxed, so much of that bodily tension goes away near instantly. I don't think it's just big panoramic views allowing your eyes to relax either, as much of this positive nature effect I experience even in closed natural environments, that I imagine could be considered claustrophobic if the objects enclosing me, trees, bushes, etc., were man-made instead of natural. It's like nature just holds you in her metaphorical or metaphysical arms, caresses you, and makes you feel like everything is going to be okay. All the hard, jagged, edge-troubling thoughts, mental constructs, and problems of modern life washed away for just a while.
It's actually fractals and the lack of them. The human identifies their omnipresence in nature and feels far more at ease with them. Most modern human construction has barely any of them, so the effect is jarring, sterile, clinical, in comparison to what your brains seek out naturally, and how buildings would in the past be built.
True, I actually came upon a study on exactly this when I was looking for some on the topic of hard edges and their effect on the psyche. This does feel true, however. The large flat surfaces with no variation feel quite unpleasant to look at also. But I don't reckon it's just that though. Even with the way buildings were built in ancient times, incorporating fractal designs, I can imagine they still wouldn't feel anywhere as satisfying to be surrounded by as nature would. What do you think? Though I guess I should not be forgetting how fractality applies even to the general shape and silhouette of a building. So in that sense, being surrounded by fractal using buildings should feel similar to being surrounded by mountains of varying height and silhouette size, which also preserves some of the ability to see far into the distance, as the buildings don't take up the whole view like modern ones do in cities.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.